Welcome back to Ask Mr. K. Today we are talking all about factoring shortcuts. Now I teach Algebra 2, and one of the things I find is that students coming in from Algebra 1 really struggle with their factoring, and it really slows down the process. And I've heard the same thing from pre-calculus teachers and even seeing some pre-calc and calc students. So I'm going to teach you some shortcuts, and hopefully it'll help you just get a little bit faster. First of all, what even is factoring? Or in other words, why are we doing it? So let's take, for example, x squared minus 7x plus 10. If I give you that equation and I say factor it, one of the reasons I'm factoring it is to find the zeros, okay? Because when I go to solve it, I actually want to be able to create the parabola from it, and the parabola is tied to the x-intercepts, which is what happens when we actually factor this, okay? So let's go through this and let's talk about our shortcuts. So we're going to start with plus, okay? And I'm going to look at it side by side with the minus minus because I think it helps to see them both. So let's take x squared minus 7x plus 10, and then I'm going to take the same thing, but I'm going to say x squared plus 7x plus 10. Anytime, and actually let's reverse those, my fault. One of the advantages of being able to create them on the fly is I'm going to make mistakes, and I think it's helpful because in my errors you can actually see how it affects the problem, okay? Plus it's just a mistake, and teachers make mistakes. So here we have plus plus. And when I see this as a plus, it tells me it's either going to be plus plus or minus minus, okay? Because this is a plus, then I know that when I set up the factoring, it's going to be plus plus, okay? Whereas over here, all right, it's going to be the same signs because that's a plus, but it's going to be minus minus because that's a minus, okay? So I'm going to take these two values. It's the last thing I need to do. They need to multiply to 10 and add to 7. So my options are 1 and 10, which doesn't really work, or 5 and 2, which works. Doesn't matter which way I put them. So here we go. We have 5 and 2, and that is the factors of that equation. Up here, well, I want them to multiply to 10, but add to negative 7. So same thing, 5 and 2. So minus 5 minus 2 adds to minus 7. All right, so that's your plus plus and your minus minus. Let's finish it off and talk about plus minus. We'll change it up a little bit. We'll say x squared, and at the end I'm going to say minus 8, and I'm going to say plus 2x, okay? So when I see this one, I know because this is a minus that, again, I always put my x because I already know those. And I know this is going to be a plus and this is going to be a minus, okay? Because when they multiply, they have to equal a negative. So a positive times a negative is a negative. So my options are 1 and 8 or 4 and 2. Well, 1 and 8, it's not going to subtract because this means to subtract them. It's not going to subtract to 2, okay? But what about 4 and 2? Well, if I subtract those, I get 2. Well, that's exactly what I want, okay? So now the question is, where do I put it? Well, if I put a 4 here, okay, and I make the mistake, I'm going to go ahead and FOIL this, okay? And when I FOIL this, I get x squared minus 4x plus 2x minus 8, which would be x squared minus 2x minus 8. Hey, that doesn't work because I wanted a plus. So I know I made a mistake. So I'm going to instead erase that. I'm going to make this my minus, this my plus, and this my minus. The order doesn't matter, okay? So now I get x squared plus 4x minus 2x minus 8, x squared plus 2x minus 8, and that works. All right, so I know it has to be the plus 4 and the minus 2. Little trick is, if that's a plus, then the bigger number has to be with the plus, okay? So that's your plus minus, right? So I think the best thing to do, honestly, is to see these from the reverse. So I'm going to erase this real quick, and let me then give you the example of a quick FOIL. Okay, so we're going to say x minus 3 and x minus 4. When I FOIL this, first x squared, outside minus 4x, inside minus 3x, last plus 12, x squared minus 7x plus 12. So my rule states that it should be either plus plus or minus minus. That tells me it's definitely minus minus. And look, it's minus minus. So the shortcut works, right? So if you memorize those 3 shortcuts, then all of your easy factoring should start to go fast, which will help everything else. Now this is with a coefficient of 1. And see, this is the leading coefficient here of 1. Now, it is a little bit harder when I have a different leading coefficient. We will do a video on this, but I really do think it still comes down to learning a couple of key shortcuts and then practicing them over and over and over. So go ahead and try some factoring on your own. If you have any questions, post it in the comments. And I'm always looking to add new videos to the channel. And we're going to just build a channel with a whole bunch of easy math videos and build on it from there.